But in all seriousness, we love hearing your perspective on a lot of different topics. And that was probably the number one thing I was most excited about when knowing we were going to have you as a co-host is I knew I could ask you about like a wide range of things and you'd have some cool perspective drawing on your work as an investor in business or in your work as a musician and as a creative professional. Like, there's a lot we could get you to weigh in on. And so in preparation for your co-hosting gig, Gideon, we had asked you, hey, and I do this with all the co-hosts, by the way. I say, send me a couple topics that you might want to talk about during the show that we can go to you on. And normally the co-host will dutifully send one or two things. Oh, something that's going on in the news, or this is something I like talking about. This is my go-to thing that if I have to talk about something at a cocktail party, this is what I talk about. Gideon King, viewers and listeners, just sent me dozens of topics, just littering my inbox with all these really amazing, thought-provoking topics across business and music and philosophy. And I had no way of sifting through all of this to figure out, okay, what thing do we want to talk to Gideon about? Because any one of these things would be excellent topics. So what I've done is I took some of Gideon's suggestions that he emailed me and we put them on, the viewers here can see, the Wheel of Gideon King topics.
All right, here we go.
And so what we're going to do before we go to break here real quick and then talk to our guest, Emily Cameron, is we're going to spin the wheel of Gideon King topics. And whatever it lands on, we're going to have you talk about that thing. And then when we bring you on again for subsequent shows, we can spin the wheel again, add more topics to it. So we're going to let the wheel decide what part of your expertise we want to draw from. All right, here we go. Let's spin the wheel.
Wow, this actually works. Look at this.
And the wheel landed on technology. How should we use technology in the studio? What does sounding real mean anymore? The funny thing is that modern sonic tools sound dated much more quickly than mere traditional instrumentation. Boy, how prescient was that topic that you just that the wheel just gave us in light of everything that you just said about AI? I mean, what does technology mean to you in the studio experience, Gideon? Are you sort of like an old school musician? Like when Gideon King and City Blog go into the studio, are you recording real instruments or are you using a lot of technology?
Man, Ryan, we use it all. I am a massive fan of exploring, trying to use every toy, every brand new toy. Pounding the studio table and saying real instruments are the only way and real strings, that's just nonsense. Okay. The only comment that I would make is that if you listen to Stevie Wonder or the Talking Heads, man, even some of Calvin Harris's stuff from a few years ago, U2, the stuff that emanates from the toys, I'll give you an example. Ivory software or Pigments. These are software programs you use in the studio. Man, they give you an unbelievable palette of sonic tools. The only frightening thing about those things is when you write a song, you want it to be lasting, right? Everybody says, what do you want? You want to write a song that's timeless. Who the hell doesn't say that, right? But I'm finding that the toys, they get supplanted by other toys and therefore almost de facto become dated. When new toys come around and supplant the old toys, at some sort of intrinsic level, the old toys are by definition dated because of their supplantation. I don't know if there's such a word as supplantation, but because they've been supplanted, okay? And yet, amazingly, piano, strings, an upright bass, even a good electric bass, those things last through time. And my only sort of, I wouldn't say advice, but my only sort of cautionary thinking on this is that be careful how hip you want to be in using the new tools from Ableton and Pigments and Ivory and Arturia and all the shit I have in my studio, which I use all the time. So I'm by the way a hypocrite as I say this, but but be careful because you may wake up literally 3 years later and be like, oh my God, that's unbelievably dated already what I wrote. And so what I'm trying to do is somehow squeeze those technological devices into creating things that are so unique and almost anomalous and unidentifiable that they don't just become dated. The best Stevie Wonder songs, let's be honest, sound a little dated because he was using the Wurlitzer and he was using the the Rhodes, and you're almost like you love Stevie, but you're thinking like, boy, that does sound a little dated. And those were the toys, just as these are the toys. So I struggle with it. We just did a song the other day, man, I'll send it to you guys, which is all toys. So maybe it's going to be dated in 15 minutes. I have no idea. But my point is we should wrestle with this when we write music, because there is actually nothing dated about Beethoven. And there is actually nothing dated about John Coltrane. But there is about those toys and some Stevie songs. Just something. I don't have any answers. I'm just highlighting the tension. That's all.
I'm with you on it. The tension is there, and I'm torn on it. I generally tend to subscribe to the view that I want artists to have as many toys as possible. The more things you give artists to create with, the cooler the stuff that they create. And we just want to have them have more stuff. But I do, and God, I'm going to sound so old and crusty when I say this, but I do lament some of what we've lost in some recordings that, even came out before I was born, that the experience that was created in that recording can never happen again because of the way we make music now. I mean, my favorite master recording, that's, the favorite composition that's ever been fixed onto a recording, is Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones.
Oh, hell yeah.
And, not because it was perfectly recorded, right? It's, the sound is raw and it's grungy, and the instruments aren't perfectly in tune and they don't nail every note. But there's certain bits of humanity in there that, technology would have taken away. Like when, and God, her name's escaping me, but the woman who sang with Mick Jagger on that song, maybe Lauren can look it up.
Oh yeah.
There's one part in that song after like toward the bridge where she's just singing her ass off, hitting, and at one point she hits this really loud screaming note, and you just hear Mick Jagger way off on the mic just go, whoa. It wasn't meant to be recorded, but it's amazing. And if that was done in a modern studio, that would have never happened, right? They would have taken out the Mick Jagger whoa, and that's sad.
And what you're in search of, in my opinion, based upon what you just said, is you're trying to get humanity out of the expression. And when you go into what that humanity that you're hearing is the air between the instrument and the mic. It's analog, it's tape, and now when you go right into the box using an expression and everything is DI, direct in, and there's no air, the question is there just sort of this fading level of humanity in what we're producing? It's quantized, for example. Right? Stuff is quantized. You play it to a click track. And so, man, this is a tough problem. The one thing is you don't want to just reject stuff, because the truth is when my son and his friends go hear a concert, okay, which is surprising that I have a son who's 22 because I'm only 33 years old. But when, 33.
Babies having babies.
Exactly. Good point. And so when he goes, man, he's seeing someone up there with a laptop, okay? And so I can't reject that. So I'm not going to reject the toys, but there's that sucking sound you hear is often the humanity going out of modern production. And so I don't know, man, maybe we're old, maybe we're old.
Love to get our guest's perspective on this in the next segment, as somebody who works for the management company that manages a lot of not only new modern artists, but a lot of the classic artists that, we might associate with traditional recording, like a Nick Cave, for example.
Yeah, totally.
Emily Cameron's probably got a lot to say on this. We're going to find out after the break. Don't go anywhere. We're back in 2 here on Break the Business.